Hi class, this is going to be the review lab help file for the Chapter 8 practice lab. I'm putting this together for you because we're going to finish this out as our Chapter 12 assignment when we add a macro to it to work through this fantasy football data. But I wanted to spend some time allowing you to get caught up on this. I know it was a lot to handle for one lab, so I wanted you to have a chance to be able to get it ready before we go and put the macro in it, because it's not going to be any fun for you to create this macro and put one in here if your data is not ready for it and it won't work correctly. So I want to make sure that you have this and you're able to finish out this lab file before class. Now, this first tab, this 2017 sales data, is just the average if, count if, sum if, and those kinds of functions, the summary function. So it's not really related to the macro, but I'm going to go through it really quickly. The first thing that you need to do is to be able to supply the summary functions for all of these different prompts. And in order to do that, you have to know what region these sales reps belong to. You'll notice that the regions here in the sales rep data are blank. And I've put them on a different tab just so that you'll be able to refresh your skills on a VLOOKUP, for example, in this particular one. We're going to use a VLOOKUP for this because we don't need a row and column match. We just have one input here. So we're just going to use a VLOOKUP because this column or this data is vertical in columns. So we're going to use a VLOOKUP here to capture the data. Before we do that, let's take a look again at this data and realize we have employee number and region. Region's what we want to return, employee number is what we have, so we'll go back over to this data and realize we have employee number as well. So we'll use that for our lookup array. So let's just remember a VLOOKUP has the following arguments. The lookup value, well, the lookup value is what do I want to use to find region on the other tab. What do I want to get the region for? So I want to look up by employee number. And the table array that I want to look up the employee number in is actually on the regions tab. So it's actually over here in A2 to B26 of this regions tab. And I'm going to go ahead and absolute reference this lookup table array so that I can drag this down. I'm going to press comma before I start changing tabs, because if I start changing tabs, you all will remember from earlier in the semester that the VLOOKUP changes with me. It's going to cause a whole lot of problems, so I don't want to do that. I'm going to instead just go ahead and absolute reference it and press column so that doesn't mess up. The next argument is column index number meaning which column do you want to return? Well, I started in column 1 with my lookup value. I want to return column 2, so we'll do column 2, and we will do false for exact match because I want only the region related to employee 12. I don't want it to guess for me. Then I can simply copy this down, and you'll notice that all of my sales reps now have a region. So now I can answer these questions. What's the average sales for sales reps in the West region? So a summary function, like I said, is an average if, an average ifs, count if, sum if, that kind of thing. So here, because we want an average, this function is going to be average if. And before I start typing, I want to remind you, these particular functions are very, very, very prone to syntax errors. So if you don't know where the quotation marks go, if you don't know where the commas go, if you're not very good at syntax, I highly recommend that you do these from the formula bar. You can get that and then insert formula on the formulas tab, and you can go over here and we want an average if. I can just select it because it's right here in my most recently used functions. If yours isn't, you can type average if here in the search bar to get it. So I want to insert this average if function, and it says, what range do you want me to average? Well, this range refers to my criteria. So you'll notice I have range, criteria, and average range. This range is going to be where does my criteria show up. So here, I want to know average sales for people in the West region. So I'm going to look it up here in the region. And it tells me the values are north, east, east, north, south, so on and so forth. So I want to look that up. Well, which criteria do I want? I want only those in the West. So I can select West. And you'll notice if I'm doing this in the formula bar, it's going to put these quotation marks around this for me, which is the whole reason that I'm doing it, so you don't have to remember where those go. And then it says, where's my average range? What do you want me to average? Well, I want you to average the sales. And so I want you to average the sales, and then we can click done, and we'll get the value for the average sales for the people in the West region. So that's one way that we could do it. We also know that we could do that with a filter, with a database function, with a pivot table. We could do it with a lot of things, but we're learning our last and final way that we can do these summary statistics, and we've learned several ways, which we'll talk more about the final coming up, but just another way you can prep for the final. So this one says total sales for the North region, sales reps with at least 5 new clients. Total means sum. This one has 2 different criteria. We want North region and at least 5 new clients. This one is sum ifs. So my sum range is my first argument here. And what do I want to sum? I want to sum all of these salaries. Well, what's my next argument? Well, if I have a sum ifs, it means I have more than one criteria. So now I'm just going to pick a criteria. I'm going to choose North region for my first criteria. And it's going to ask me, once I get out of this box that says sum range, criteria range. My criteria range for my first criteria is where the regions are. And I want that criteria to be North. Then I'm going to give it a second criteria. My second criteria is going to be I want them to have at least 5 new clients. So I'm going to select these new clients, and I'm going to say, again, right after I get out of the wrong box, you can tell I'm not used to using it. I'm used to typing in my syntax, but that's okay. Criteria range number 2 is going to be this new clients. And then what is my criteria for that range? I want greater than 5. With at least 5 new, how about greater than or equal to 5? And so I will hit done, and it will total the sales for people that are from the north, both from the north and have new clients. Number of sales rep from the south region. This one's a count if. So I just want to count this. And the range is going to be where my criteria is going to show up. So I want to count in this range, and I want my criteria to be south. So that'll just count if they are in the south. Average sales for the west over 500,000. Well, this is average, but it's got 2 criteria. So this one is average ifs. What's the average range? Well, what do I want it to average? I want it to average sales. What's my criteria? My first criteria. My first criteria is west. So again, I'll select the regions. And again, it would be super if I would do this one step at a time. Let's go back. Average range. I want it to average the salaries. My criteria range. My first criteria is going to be west. So I want the criteria range to be there. I want my criteria to be west. My second criteria here is going to be over 500,000. So I want sales that are greater than 500,000. And apparently I just absolutely can't do this. Criteria range number 2 is going to be sales, and the criteria is going to be over 500,000. So greater than 500,000. There we go. Total sales for the North region, sales reps with at least 5 new clients. Here again, this one is going to be total sales is going to be sum. This one has 2 criteria. So we'll do the sum ifs with the S on it. So the first argument again is sum range. So I want to sum up the ranges for the salaries. My first criteria is going to be that they are in the North region. So I will select the regions, and my criteria this time will be North. And my last criteria says with at least 5 new clients. So this time, as I remember to click in the box, we'll do new clients, and that criteria again will be greater than or equal to 5. Hopefully you're seeing how these work as we move down. And then number of sales reps in the south region with sales over 5,000. This one is count ifs. It just wants to know the number of them, and it has 2 criteria. So my criteria range for this one, again, I'll start with south since it's the first criteria listed. My criteria range will be region. My criteria will be south. My second criteria will be sales. And I'm failing at life today. I'm really sorry. Criteria range, sales, and last criteria over greater than 500,000. So hopefully these make sense. They're just summary statistics. This one's formatted as dollars, which doesn't make any sense at all. So I can just make that a regular number, which makes a whole lot more sense as it's not a dollar figure. But you see where we're going. Again, I could have done these with database functions, could have done them with pivot tables, could have done them with advanced filtering. A whole lot of ways to get there, just another way to do it. Next, we have this fantasy football thing. And so I'm going to briefly walk you through what you need to do because you don't need to spend an hour with me trying to do it. So I'll walk you through how to do one of these fantasy football positions, and you need to do them all. What I do want to tell you is there's 2017, 2018 lists of fantasy football players here. I will point out to you, because some of you have asked me, some of the data is dirty. I tried to get it all, but I didn't. But like some of them say running back / running back. You can include them in running backs or not. I don't care. It's just an exercise in practice, and I just missed them. So if that's the case, you can include them in running back or not. It doesn't make any difference to me. But the goal of this is to have a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a kicker, and some bench players that we can select from data validation. Now, if you play fantasy football, you know that if I have a quarterback on this team, he can't also be on this team, and I can't list the same running back twice. I could teach you how to program this so that that would be the case. That's not what I'm asking you to do. I just want you to supply data validation and trust that we won't select the same running back twice, but that's not a rule of how to do this. So we're going to get you started on how this works. When we're doing data validation and we've done a lot of lists, my recommendation is to create a new tab where we're going to call this tab player sheet or player names. We'll call it player names by position. So you know what we're going to put on here. Player names by position. And I'm going to hide the lists of all of my fantasy players on this player by position so that I can then select them here for my data validation. It's the easiest thing to do. Well, the first thing I want to do is find out who my quarterbacks are. There's a million ways to do it, guys. This is just the way that I would choose. I'm going to select all of this data. Command Shift over, Command Shift down. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to filter it. And I'm going to filter it because I just want it to show me quarterbacks. So when I go up here to position, I'm going to deselect all and I'm going to say I only want quarterbacks. Just give me quarterbacks. Then it's going to provide me a list with just quarterbacks. So I'm going to select this. And then a very important step that I would love for you to realize happens in Excel. Right now, there's a whole lot of hidden rows because I just filtered. But I just want to see these ones here. If I start summing things or I start doing things, it's going to capture all the data from underneath as well. I just want these names here that belong to quarterbacks. So to get them, I'm going to go to the Home tab. Over here is Find and Select. Some of you don't have it. Some of you have to go up through Tools, but we're looking for Go To Special. So somewhere on your ribbon, you need to find Go To Special. And I want Visible Cells Only. And when I have Visible Cells Only, I want to click OK. So once I've done Visible Cells Only, you can see that they're just randomly selected here. And I want to hit Copy. And once I hit Copy, I'm going to go over here to this player name by position. And I'm just going to pick a spot and I'm going to paste them. I'm going to do the same thing in the 2018 data. I'm going to click on this thing. I'm going to Control Shift over, Control Shift down, select all the data, go to the Data tab and filter. And again, I'm just going to select the quarterbacks. So when I select the quarterbacks, somewhere they're in here. Here we go. I'm going to get more of them this time, I think. Maybe not. Yep, 32 this time. I had 28 a minute ago. So now I'm going to do the same thing. Home tab, Find and Select, Go To Special. Want the Visible Cells Only. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to say I'm going to copy these again. I'm going to go back to my player name by position, click underneath this list, and hit Paste. Now, when I do that, I'm going to notice that I'm going to have some repeats. So you'll see Cam Newton here, Cam Newton here. I have some repeats. I don't want any repeats. So I'm going to highlight this column A. Over here on the Data tab, I believe, there is somewhere in the middle ribbon here this symbol called Remove Duplicates. It looks a little different on my PC than it does now on my Mac, but you can find it over here. It's with Data Validation Flash Fill Text Columns. We want Remove Duplicates. I want to remove duplicates in column A. It's going to tell me I had 17 duplicate values, 46 unique values remain. So now I have 46 unique values, and we're off and running. I could also, if I want to, sort this from A to Z. It's going to sort it by first name, which is fine. It's going to sort it in some order that I want to have it. Now, if I wanted to get real fancy and split these, I could split them by first and last name and then sort them by last name, but I don't really care about all that. Right now, I just want a list of quarterbacks. So now I have a list of unique quarterbacks, and I'm going to call this list QBs. What I call it doesn't matter. I just want to remember for myself what it is. And so I'm feeling fancy today. I'm going to underline it. I'm going to make it bold. I'm going to center it so I know these are my QBs. The whole point of that is to go back over here to this fantasy football thing. And I want to create data validation in this box and in this box to show me my quarterbacks. So to do that, again, I will go to data, data validation. And in this box, I want to choose from a list. And it says, okay, where is your list? Well, I have a list because I made one. Otherwise, I would have been randomly selecting them out of here. It gets really complicated. But now I have a list sorted in alphabetical order by first name, which is nice. And I want to create this list, player name by position, and select OK. Now you'll notice I have all of my quarterbacks in this lovely little box, which is what we're going to do. One cool thing that you can do with data validation is you can copy and paste data validation from one square to the other, which is also nice. Now, if I wanted to get the same color, I go over here and it tells me that that color is that, and I want to make the color the same. So now I still have data validation here. I've copied and pasted it from one to the other, but now I have this. So that's what you need to do. And you have to follow those same steps for running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, kickers. These include all of them. So when you get your list complete, you're going to stack them one on top of each other and just put them in this bench players. I recommend that you leave them in this order: the quarterbacks first, the running backs, the wide receivers, the tight ends. I'm not sure why that says WE. That's pretty funny to me. That's kind of hilarious, actually. So this one should be just quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end. Anyway, it should be WE, but whatever. I won't mess with it. Let's hit Command Z, and I'll just let it do its thing, which is fine. So now what I want to do is talk about how you're going to get the projected points. So the projected points, I've created this sheet called points, player points per game. So what you want to do here is, it doesn't matter for this particular one what type of player they are, but we want the whole list. So here I'm going to clear the filters so that I can get the entire list of players. Control Shift down. I'm just going to copy them. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to copy them. I'm going to take them over to this sheet, and I'm going to hit paste. I'm going to do the same thing with the 2018 data. With the 2018 data for the players. I'm going to clear the filters. I'm going to select all of the players. I'm going to control copy. I'm going to go back over here to the player points per game. I'm going to go to the bottom of the list. And I'm going to paste that list here again. So Command V. I'm just going to paste. Now, I'm going to do the same thing that I did before, and I'm going to say remove the duplicates. And yes, I want to remove the duplicates. There were 276 of them. 676 remain that are not duplicates. So that's fine, because I want to know the 2017-2018 points for all these players. So here I have players. And again, there's a million ways that you can do this. We're going to do 2017 points here. 2017 points. And we're going to do 2018 points here. So for the purposes of 2017 points, we're going to do a VLOOKUP. So here we're going to do a VLOOKUP. And we're going to say, I want you to look up Greg Zuerlein. And where do I want you to look him up? Well, I want you to look him up. This is 2017 points. So I want you to look him up over here in the 2017 database. And I want to go all the way over to points per game. So I'm going to select all of that data. I'm going to absolute reference it. I'm going to go up here again because I'm in a different tab. I'm going to go ahead and press my comma, and it's going to say, okay, what column do you want me to return? Well, I started here. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 23. Points per game, column 23. So column 23 is going to be points per game. So I want column 23, and I want false. I want an exact match. I want you to look up Greg Zuerlein. I want you to tell me how many points per game he gets. So does Greg Zuerlein get 20, what did it say? 11.3 points in 20? Yes, he does. So on and so forth. Well, these are all going to be in the same order until I get down the list. So we'll go back over here to points per game because I want to point something out to you. Here, you'll notice that when I get to my second list, people that weren't included in this top list here, I get a whole bunch of NAs. Well, I get a whole bunch of NAs because those people aren't in 2017 data. We'll deal with that in just a second. For this one, we're going to do the VLOOKUP again. And we're going to say I want to look up Greg Zuerlein again. This time I want to look him up in 2018 data. And I want to go all the way over. Can't make the assumption that it's still the 23rd row. So I'll just select all the data. Absolute reference it, press comma, and then I'm going to count my column index number. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Luckily for me, it is 23. Pulled my data from the same source. This is why. So there we go. Exact match. Beautiful. So now I can copy these down. And again, I'm going to get some NAs. What I'm looking for here is an average points. So I have two values, if I have two values, but I just want to calculate an average. So average will be my function, and I want to average these two values together. It's all well and good until I get down here to the NAs. So I don't want to do this. I have to come up with something else. So I want you to spend some time thinking about this. And we will start at this point. We'll start with fixing this in lab on Friday. But then once you get this average points, the thing that you have to do now is go back over to this fantasy winner and write an index match to get from this player name to these projected points. You can do a VLOOKUP too if you want. You don't have to have an index match. VLOOKUP will work. So for this particular case, if I wanted to select, if I want to select, I'll show you. If I want to select Aaron Rodgers and I want to say equals VLOOKUP, and I want to look up Aaron Rodgers, and I want to look Aaron Rodgers up now in my player points per game, Command Shift down, absolute reference, because I want to just be able to drag it, return column 4 this time with an exact match. That should give me Aaron Rodgers' points. Now, if I go back over here and I find Aaron Rodgers, Command F, Rodgers, that's not him. Where's Aaron Rodgers? If I could spell R-O-D-G-E-R-S. Aaron Rodgers. The reason he gives me an NA is because he's only listed in one of my data sets, which I agree is weird, but I go with what I have. So I get an NA because he does in fact have an NA, which is what I'm supposed to do. So what I want you to do between now and Friday is work on figuring out how to do that. I recommend an if statement. You can also do it with an if error statement. But work on that. We'll get started there and we'll write a macro, but make sure that you're caught up in all of that. Thanks. Have a great day.